We are live. Jack hit the live button. Thank you, Jack, for doing that when I asked you not to do it. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, Welcome back to another episode of the Colin Thompson Show. That is Jack Connell, and I am Colin Thompson. Yes, for those watching, I do look a little bit creepier today. I did shave my face for good reason, for very good reason. I'm going to get at in a second, but I shaved my face for the first time, Jack, since my days at Archbishop Wood High School. Pretty crazy, man.
Dude, I even recognize you. When I saw the picture, like I had to do a double take when they posted the picture for tight ends day. I'm like, that can't be Colin, is it? I had to literally do a double. I was shocked, befuddled to say the least.
I've been getting ripped, made fun of. Very few people have said it looks good, and I appreciate those people that have said it looks good. So thank you to them. Yeah, it is. It's been funny. It's been funny to see the faces, the reactions of the people on the team that I've been going to work with now for 3 years, and then come in the one day and my face is completely shaven. It felt amazing. Shout out to Gillette, sponsor of the NFL. Could be potential sponsor of this show. I mean, amazing shave. First time I've shaved in, like I said, a really long time. I've always shaved my neck and all, but they're like really shave everything. The shower after was premier. Felt amazing on my face, like something I've never felt before because it's been so long. It's been so long. It's been 10 years. So yeah, shave the face and for good reason. We had the Bozemans hosted a Halloween party for the team. I'm going to look it up right now because I want to make sure we give them a shout out. Yeah, here we go. I want to look it up to make sure we give their charity a shout out because it's unbelievable what they did. So Bradley and Nikki Bozeman have an amazing foundation. He's been up for Walter Payton Man of the Year. I mean, multiple times when he was in Baltimore. I know he was a finalist for here in Carolina. Bradley Bozeman's one of our offensive linemen. They've done an unbelievable job in their Charlotte community. They're great people. I'm going to read this here. The duo established the Bradley and Nikki Bozeman Foundation in 2018, but they've been making an impact on lives since they were student athletes at Alabama. Following a speaking engagement to educate middle schoolers on the impact of bullying, the two realized they wanted to use their platform to give back to educate others. Since then, they've visited hundreds of schools and talked to over 100,000 students about the dangers of bullying, the importance of accepting differences in others. Most recently, the Bozemans have established the SYNC snack program, which provides meaningful food and academic support to children living in disadvantaged communities. The foundation partners with local police departments, including Charlotte Mecklenburg Police, which then distributes boxes that contain self-sustainable food. The boxes also have QR codes placed on the outside, which link back to educational resources, leadership, healthy lifestyle programming, as well as the Bozeman Foundation online library of anti-bullying. So if you can, you have the means. Cindy and I we can't try to support what they have going on enough. Check out the Bradley and Nikki Bozeman Foundation. They had an awesome Halloween party for us, for the team. Last night at Fahrenheit in Uptown Charlotte. It was fantastic. And they had amazing silent auctions. They had just a really cool, situation. It gives the team a chance to be together outside of the facility, which is always a really special thing. But we're talking renting this huge rooftop bar restaurant. I mean, they rented out half of it. I know Fahrenheit donated a ton to them, and all for the foundation. There was probably 25 players there, 30 players there, significant others. And then the nice thing about it, which I thought was really unique, was guests could pay and support the foundation and come to the Halloween party. So it wasn't just players and staff members only. There was a mix of, just people, normal folks just coming to the event, not a part of, our workplace, our job, our team. So that was really unique. And I know they raised a bunch of money. I don't want to speak for the number, but I know they raised thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for their foundation, which is an awesome foundation. So congrats. I shouldn't say congrats. I should say thank you to the Bozemans because they just do amazing work, and their foundation, again, check it out. It's the Sync Foundation and the Bradley and Nikki Bozeman Foundation. Please support if you can. So I buried the lead, Jack. But really what I was talking about, I shaved because for the Halloween party, I had to go with the Tony Soprano look. So the fresh shave, the slick back hair. I had my dad's old, 6-button double-breasted, whatever it is, suit, cigar in the mouth, big tie, just absolutely just loving it, having a great time. Sydney dressed as Mrs. Soprano. So it's a favorite show of Sydney and I, so we figured why not do it. Absolutely love the show. I've watched it multiple times now. Jack, you watched the show. You finally watched it, correct?
Yes, I did. I'm gonna say probably about a year ago. I watched it. I love The Sopranos. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. So I agree with you that one. The Pine Barrens episode is one of the best
Unbelievable.
episodes in the history of
He's an
television in
interior
general.
decorator. His house was a mess. He was an interior decorator. No, it's a great show. Awesome show. So I had to do that. Had to do that. So I had a good time. That's why the voice is a little hoarse today, Jack. Not as bad as it's been on this show from some of the other times I've had at some bigger weekends. But yeah, DJ the whole nine. You're trying to talk to people. I'm always going to lose my voice. I do all the time. So you had a great time for a great cause, and was fun to dress up and let loose. We won, which was great. 2 wins in the season so far. It's not been the season we wanted. Obviously, that's a shocker. But yeah, it was good to get a great win against the Bucks, right? And then we go to Atlanta, a chance to stay undefeated in our division, which is really important to us. We beat New Orleans in week 3, I believe, week 3. So yeah, it's no surprise, Jack. It's been an up and down season there, or I should say that's a surprise, but no hot take, I should say, that it's been an up and down season, and it's been tough. But to get a win, for our team, for Coach Wilkes, who's awesome, for the organization, it was really big for us at home against Tom Brady and the Bucks. So we got to keep it moving because it only gets harder and harder. That's the NFL season. It keeps going. So, Jack, your Eagles, what have they been up to?
So they had a bye week this week. They go back in action this Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers, kind of just resting, recuperating. And then, of course, the following week in the midst of the World Series, they play, of course, the Houston Texans on Thursday Night Football, the one day off from the World Series while they switch home field. So that will be exciting to watch as the Eagles continue in the stretch for their, I guess, technically almost the second half of their season. It's crazy to think that we're already talking about almost the second half of the NFL season already.
If someone listens to this show and goes to and hears about this and goes to a game in Houston, goes to a Astros game, and then goes to the Texans game, Eagles, and then comes back home and goes to the is it the other way around? Should it be? Is it that way?
It's 2-3-2 Houston, and then Philly back to Houston.
So then they would go Houston. They would go if a Philly sports fan, we're going to give them some merch. Have to if they tell us about it and take a picture or whatever. But there'll definitely be a Philly sports fan that will go to a Houston Astros game, then a Houston Texans Eagles game, and then they're going to go home and then watch the Phillies play at home. I'm assuming that will happen. Just assume. Has to happen. There's somebody that's going to do it. Why not? They can do it. So, so awesome stuff. I mean, it's been a great run, right? I'm not going to bury the lead here. The matchups brought to you by Wealth Advisory Services. If you don't know them, you should. Check them out, wealthadvisoryservices.com. Unbelievable treatment, first class, 100 years of experience, like I've talked about before on the show many, many times. Paul, Dave, and their team have been just awesome to us. As a young investor, as talking to my friends that are older investors, I'm really close with Paul. They're just not. There's not anything better than really the communication, the relationship building, the trust, which is so important. Obviously, your money, but just with your family finances, generational wealth. You're trying to create different things. You're trying to start with a little bit of money, or you have a ton of money, whatever that is. They're the right people, and they were people across the country. So wealthadvisoryservices.com. Check them out. Get in touch with us. And we'll put them in touch with you. The matchup of the week, Jack, has to be the World Series, right? The World Series is coming. The Phillies have become the hottest team in baseball. Obviously, shocker, not a hot take, but they have been. They become the hottest team in baseball. They went from a wild card team that everybody liked to match up against St. Louis. And then everybody liked the matchup first. Who they played in the second round? Atlanta. Thank you. Because Atlanta was had their home game at like 1:00 and no one was at the game. Thank you, MLB. We already talked about that enough. And then they like the matchup against San Diego because it's not the big bad LA Dodgers. And then all of a sudden, here we go. You got Houston. So this is a matchup now that's a tough one. It's not the draw that I think they've had so far. It's the World Series. This is the best team in baseball they're facing. That's been really a perennial kind of powerhouse in baseball over the last few years. A cheating scandal or not, whatever. You still got to hit the ball. You still got to field the position, and that team is really, really good. They have great pitching. They have great hitting. They have a great ballpark. I could argue it's nothing like Philly, but it is an indoor, so you're going to have a lot of, it's going to be loud. And if they open up the roof, it depends on. I know the Yankees were complaining about the roof because the wind was blowing some balls in and not out. But I mean, Houston hit all runs that game too, so it's kind of a tough argument. But yeah, the matchup of the week this week brought to you by Wealth Advisory Services. It's the World Series, Shaq. I mean, I think it's safe to say. Are you excited to watch the World Series or what, man?
Oh, I'm pumped. The excitement around the city is immeasurable. I was old enough to remember the 2008 World Series being, I think, like third grade when that happened, the excitement around the city. It's very similar to that. I mean, those are pretty much the last two times the Phillies have been really dominant and the whole city's really cared about them, and it's well deserving. I mean, they are so good. I mean, they are, like you said, they're getting hot at the right time. I'm far from a baseball expert. Like I've said numerous times before, any of my baseball opinions, I just ask JA, and whatever he says, I just parrot. So I'm just really excited to watch these upcoming games. I mean, it's been literally my drive to school the other day, I tried to stop by Dick's Sporting Goods in Rally House, and there was first off, Dick's Sporting Goods was sold out of everything. This was 10 a.m. the morning after. Dick's Sporting Goods was already sold out of everything, and Rally House didn't open for an hour later. And there was like a 50 person wait out the door for Phillies gear at Rally House. And I get back after my class at like 1 o'clock, tried to check again. The line somehow doubled and the store was open. So I didn't even bother. I'll try to check in the next day or so to get a World Series hat, but it has been insane down here.
What does that tell you though? Like, I know this, the fan base is fragile. Like we all are, because we don't watch every at bat all season long. So you know the players, but the vast majority of people really don't know the day to day. Like the other day, it's like, wow, a pin could drop here because the Padres hit a home run, in Citizens Bank Park, and then it's all back to normal because the Phillies are back again. It's like it's not a lot of diehards. It's a lot of people that jump on the bandwagon, right? I don't think people want to admit that they're big Phillies fans. They love the Phillies, but they're really like dive into them. Like people watch the Eagles, Flyers, Sixers. It's just different with baseball. I think it's a different atmosphere. It's more of a casual watching audience than a diehard. But now with baseball, people dive right in. Like I remember the same thing when I was a kid, Jack. 08, like it was Modell's and Schuylkill Valley Sports would be like packed. You couldn't even move to get like just the hat that says postseason baseball on it, like, or whatever it was. So no, yeah, it's good fond memories for me. So yeah, the matchup this week brought to you by Wealth Advisory Services, the World Series. I can't wait to watch it. Would love to try to get to a game. We'll see if our schedule allows it. But it's pretty crazy. My wife's from Houston. I'm from Philly. So it's going to be a good thing for our families this weekend, kind of cheering and talking smack back and forth to each other. So it's going to be fun. I'm excited for it. I buried the lead per usual, Jack. And I didn't realize till I said I buried the lead a couple minutes ago. We have Ken Cage coming on today. We have the Ken Cage coming on. Everyone says, well, Ken Cage, that name, it rings a bell. It should. Airplane Repo, the famous TV show. For those that have watched it, if you haven't, go watch it. It is fantastic. Essentially, the show's about people repossessing items, right? They can't make a payment. Here comes Ken and his team. They're not knocking on your door. They're going behind your back and they're taking the plane. They're taking the car. They're taking the boat. Ken tells stories about some of the craziest things he's repoed, the most expensive things he's repoed, the weirdest things he's repoed, people shooting at him, people chasing him, boat chases, you name it. Ken's got great stories. He's a local to the Philadelphia area and just truly a great guy. He was so gracious with his time, had a lot going on, jumped on a couple weeks ago. And I really think you're going to enjoy the Ken Cage interview. Just a fun interview. Like I said many times on the show before, we want to be different. We don't want to be always about sports. Ken's a good mix up. Now, Ken's a big sports fan and we talk about sports, but again, he is someone who's repoed millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of items. And he's got some great stories dealing with some really weird people. So I think you'll enjoy this interview. It's a good little mix up. So another matchup I have this week, Jack, brought to you by Wealth Advisory Services, is the Rams and the Niners. It's a big rivalry now when it comes to, who's going to come out of the NFC over the last couple of years. Cmac, obviously with the Niners now. We're going to get into that here a little bit. But Cmac's with the Niners now. And, it adds a little more juice to that game. 2 weeks ago, we just played the Rams. And he had a great game against the Rams. So I anticipate the same thing out of him. He's just an absolute stud. I'm going to get into him in a minute here. kind of say our farewell from the podcast and wish them nothing but the best. But yeah, matchup for me is Rams and Niners this week. They're two teams that are really well coached, that have really good rosters, that are fighting to come out of that NFC West, and that's loaded with some good teams. So yeah, that's my big matchups for this week. Jack, anything jump off the table for you? I think the Steelers and Eagles is a big matchup. It's a PA, big rivalry game. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it'll be a big test for Kenny Pickett, see how he does against a really good Eagles defense. Packers Bills is another interesting game if Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay can bounce back and strike against Josh Allen, the Red Hot Bills. So those are pretty much the two games that jump out to me. Really, I mean, it's definitely after a very exciting last few weeks, it's definitely a more tame slate of NFL games this weekend, in my opinion.
They'll still be great. They'll still find a way to be awesome. There'll still be fireworks. I think the one thing to keep in mind too is the trade deadline's coming. So we're starting to see some trades, see some movement. Obviously, the big piece was Christian McCaffrey, and we're going to get into that now. Forever and always, a Bus One member brought to you by Fudge Kitchen, the original FudgeKitchen.com. FudgeKitchens.com, shipping fudge and sweet treats across the country. It is time. It is that time of year. It is October 25th. Halloween is here. Thanksgiving is here. Christmas is on the way. So it is time to start shipping fudge to your friends. We're giving away fudge on Halloween at the door. We're giving away fudge. Why not? It is delicious. It is fresh. It is made fresh daily. It has got that just local Jersey Shore product, the great saltwater taffy, all the sweet treats, the chocolates, everything. They ship it all. Any Bus One member is always brought to you by FudgeKitchens.com. And primarily this guy, it always will be a Bus One member brought to you by the original Fudge Kitchen, is Christian McCaffrey. Cmac will always be a Bus One member and always be welcome on this show, obviously. Christian got traded last week. Pretty obvious, and he played right away, not a shocker, and had a really pretty big impact, at least in the first half there when I was watching the game, on the game this past weekend. It was really tough to see him go. He's become a friend. We've gotten close. Our wives and girlfriends have gotten close. We've gotten to know him and his family a little bit. That's the tough part of this sport. He's giving me advice about life, about football, about being a better person, about work ethic, about training habits. He's come on the show and talked about those things. So it was really tough to see him go, but I just couldn't be happier for him to go to a great, great place. You could argue probably not a better fit in the NFL for his skill set. All the story about the Shanahans and the McCaffreys and all that, that's awesome. Don't get me wrong, but that guy right there, C-Mac, wants to win Super Bowls. He wants to win rushing titles. And he can do it, and he will do it. I firmly believe that. I don't believe he's an injury-prone player. Everybody says that crap. No. Injury-prone players are lazy and not dialed in. This guy is so dialed in. This guy works extremely hard. He's a freaking awesome teammate. He's an elite competitor, and he's one of the best people I've ever been around. So I will miss that, and I do miss that in our locker room. We all do. The whole organization does. It's no secret. I mean, 22 is he was the face of the team. Every jersey in the stands is 22. So rightfully so. The guy's just been electric, nothing short of it. He's had a little bumpy road with some injuries the last couple of years, but that's not who he is as a player. I think we'll all look back and be like, yeah, he had a couple of years there, but the guy's going to be a Hall of Famer, in my opinion, and he's going to get there, and he couldn't be in a better place to go do it. So I'm so happy for C-Mac. We'll miss you, brother. We'll get you on the show soon. And C-Mac's always going to be a Bus One member for us here, brought to you by the original Fudge Kitchen. Jack, you grew up watching Christian. You've heard me talk about him a lot. What type of damage do you think he can do out there with the Niners?
I think he'd be really great. I think him and Deebo Samuel are they're somewhat similar, but they're both very big and dual threat. Obviously, Christian's incredible in the receiving game, primarily running back, opposite of Deebo Samuel. But I mean, adding that versatility to their offense, it just adds another level. Like you said, he made such a big impact, and he's only been in that system for what? 1 practice, 2 practices?
That's it. Yeah.
And he was already that good for San Francisco. It's going to be interesting to see how great he is. And as their kind of core develops over the next few years between him, Trey Lance, Deebo, who's I think locked into a big contract this past offseason. So George Kittle, obviously. It's going to be great to see that offense in full motion. Especially, what's that?
Ayuk is pretty good too.
Brandon Ayuk, I can't forget him. I mean, they're just all really talented and locked in for several years. So great job by John Lynch to kind of lock in that core for them for the foreseeable future.
Hell of a core, man. Hell of a core. And they're fun to watch. I watch all their games every week. I like the way their tight ends play, so I try to pick things up and I watch the film on them, and they're just unreal. George Kittle's the best tight end on the planet. It's not even a question. We're going to get into the tight end day. We might as well. I believe Travis Kelce and him in the same amount of catches and receiving yards this weekend on National Tight Ends Day. How cool is that? Those guys have spearheaded this tight end U thing with Greg Olsen, and they have created National Tight Ends Day. George Kittle did. It's just really cool. It's really cool for the marketing and game. Obviously, it's, for us, I'm excited because I'm a tight end, and, we get all the perks of what those guys do for all of us. It's awesome. It's just unique, such a big deal. We had an opportunity to wear all of the, some, I should say, of the great Panthers tight ends that came before us. The team hooked us up with jerseys to wear into the game. And I had Jeff King on, who's actually a scout for the Bears and one of the people that brought me into the Bears, and he played for the Panthers, obviously, back in the day. So I got to wear his big 47. There's a lot of guys, obviously, Greg Olsen. It was really cool. Ed Dixon to wear, see what player was going to wear what, and kind of matches the type of player that we are, similarities, personality traits. Because some people in the building were with those guys when they were here in Carolina, and they kind of picked us to wear their jerseys, which is really cool. So Ian played with Greg Olsen, so Ian threw the Greg on. But just a really unique thing, the tight end day, tight end week, tight end university, all these things they're doing for this position and really bringing a lot of eyes to it is really good. It does a lot of good for the position. It does a lot of good for guys financially. It does a lot of good because I think the world knows how important tight ends are in offenses. Like every single offense has good tight ends now. You have to. Multiple, I said it before in the show, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At some points, you have depth and you have players and practice squad guys that are really good. So, yeah, it's really cool what they did. And I absolutely love what they got going on with tight end day.
I mean, it was really cool. Like, again, like you said, it's really cool. Whether there's no like National Quarterback Day, no National Wide Receiver Day, they
don't need it. They don't need it.
It's cool to see everyone kind of have their respect. Of course, Tommy had the great touchdown on National Tight End Day, which is cool to see too. So, I mean, it was great across the board for National.
Great across the board. Really was a great point, Jack. So, Bus One, Cmac, another Bus One member this week. We have a couple. We're not throwing anybody out of the bus, Jack. We're gonna be nice this week. Brought to you by the original Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com. Bus One member, whoever's in charge, whoever made the decision for the Flyers to have $1 dog night and $5 beers during the Phillies playoff games. That's fantastic. Bravo to the Flyers. Bravo to the Flyers. I have come on here and been very unhappy about how the Flyers are doing their business, but they are on a roll. They are 4-2. They are competitive. They have awesome goaltending. They will probably just miss the playoffs again this year and have a mid-first round draft pick, which won't land them a top premier player, which will stink. But I'll say this, it will be entertaining to watch them throughout the season because John Tortorella and their group have got them going. But shout out to the operations, whoever's in that building making that call. $1 dog night, $5 beer night. Just really, it's so smart because, first off, people that don't know, all the stadiums and arenas are all next to each other where the Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, and Eagles play. Temple football plays there. There's a lot going on there. So it's really cool for those to feed off each other. Xfinity Live's in the middle. That's where you guys see all of the Phillies players partying and having a good time after games. It's right there at Xfinity Live, which is right in the middle of everything, which is this huge place with like 10 bars in it and restaurants and a great time. So, Jack, I was wondering if there's like a walkway or an alleyway, or is there like an underground tunnel between Citizens Bank Park and Xfinity Live?
I think there's gotta be. I mean, it's just, regardless, you have to think it's not even a quarter mile of a walk between Citizens and Xfinity. It's like a block. It's nothing.
Oh, it's not even, it's nothing. It's a block. But it's not a bad walk, but I'm wondering if like players.
That's what I'm saying. Like the closer it is, the more likely there's a tunnel or something.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's a good point. So, I love the Flyers doing $1 dog night. They're Bus One members so far this year. They could be under the bus here by halfway point, which I wouldn't be. I don't really care which direction the Flyers go this year because they're either going to play great, make the playoffs, which they would be just crazy because they just don't have like the talent compared to these other teams, but they're really playing well under Tortorella. They're in great shape. They're playing tough. They're playing physical. They have great goaltending. Or they get stuck in no man's land in the middle, but you know what? Hey, at least it was entertaining and they made a push. Or they tank and they get a great player because there's a lot of really good players at the top of the draft this year. So we'll see. They're in cap hell. They got to move some people. We'll see how it goes down. Another Bus One member this week, Jack, brought to you by the Original Fudge Kitchen. It's one of my best friends in the sport of football, a guy that I've really been close with, consider him a great friend, a brother, and that's PJ Walker. Listen, there's no other quarterback that's like this guy. He has done it the long way, the hard way. Elizabeth, New Jersey, Temple football, not a lot of offers, undersized. Colts practice squad, on and off, cut probably a dozen times. XFL, would have been the MVP. Signs here, doesn't play here. Teddy Bridgewater comes in, wins a game the first year. Then the next year, they bring Sam Darnold in. He comes in, wins a game. They bring Cam Newton in. PJ comes back in, wins another game. This year, multiple quarterbacks. You got to draft one. You trade for one. Sam Darnold's still here. PJ's still here. And, preseason throws like 2 picks or didn't have a good game against New England. We didn't play well as a team in the preseason. Oh, PJ Walker, blah, blah, blah. All the media, all that stuff. He's not that good, all this crap. What he did in the game this weekend is really not a big deal. He does that every day of practice. Now, he did it in the game. It's truly amazing what he did. His numbers, I'll read them to you. 16 for 22 against the Bucs defense, 72% completion percentage for 177 yards, 2 TDs, and the best passer rating in the NFL with 126.5. That's PJ every day in practice. Point blank period. He does it every day. The throws he makes are absolutely ridiculous. His arm strength, his arm angles, the touch he can put on the ball, or the absolute rocket he can throw. Go look at those throws this week. They are ridiculous. I said on the sideline, he made the one throw across his body to DJ Moore going right to left. And I said, well, I just want him a couple more years in the league because those plays like that is enough to keep you in. Now, the way you play like that, that's the way he played doesn't buy you a couple years in the league. It buys you a second contract, third contract. So I know PJ's up for one this year. He's one of my great friends. He'll be a Bus One member forever. And led us to victory 21-3 over the Bucs. So, he outdueled Tom Brady. You could say that. Pretty cool. He deserves it. And again, he's been doing that forever. It's just give him the opportunity. And he had a great game. The O-line played fantastic. The backs, everybody stepped up. It's a tough. We lose Coach Rule, then you lose Christian McCaffrey back-to-back weeks. That's not easy stuff. And our team, and credit to Coach Wilkes and everybody involved to really get us to circle the wagons and get together and get a really big dub. So awesome for PJ, Bus One member for life too. No one under the bus, but I'll tell you this: I'm getting on the bus and I'm going to Amiche. I was there tonight for dinner, Jack. Oh my God, the Utica greens mixed with filet tips. They make these Utica greens. It's like collard greens mixed with like Italian stuffing. And it's the most delicious thing you could ever, ever, ever eat. Oh my goodness. Now he's putting these filet tips in it. Oh my goodness. Utica Greens is Utica, New York is where Nick's from, the owner, the founder of Amiche, the best Italian food in the Charlotte area. And they all make these Utica Greens everywhere. It's kind of like the appetizer of the area. It's the cheesesteak of the area, right? They're very unique. It's like just an Italian, just unbelievable, kind of like what's left over hodgepodge. And it's so good. It's got a little spice. It's got a little meat, salty. It's so freaking good. So we were there tonight for dinner. The salads are massive. We got this huge bean and arugula salad with salmon, absolutely just huge. The chicken parm's ridiculous. I just love their menu. They have great service, great people, big TVs in there now. It was a beautiful night here in Charlotte. People are eating outside, just absolutely gorgeous. They have awesome specials. Check them out. Amiche, the official sponsor of Not For Long Media and the Colin Thompson Show. All right, Jack, we're going to pour some out, though. We're going to pour some out. Som Sleep, promo code Colin. Check them out. Get Som Sleep, guys. Get Som Sleep. Check them out. Again, the sleep product that changed my career, that I think has added time onto my career, added time onto my mind and my thoughts and my focus and how I sleep and how I approach things and attack things is all because of Som. They're freaking awesome. It is the best natural sleep product. It puts you down nice and light. It keeps you down and then rises you in the morning. And I'm ready to go. Not the groggy feeling when you're taking a sleep supplement. I think it helps me get in a rhythm sleeping wise. It helps me perform better mentally, physically. everything, because you're going to get better sleep. Sleep's really, truly the only one way to recover. So Som Sleep, check them out. Promo code Colin, Colin, the only way to spell Colin. Check them out, Som Sleep. We're going to pour some out to everybody who overreacted, Jack. Everybody who overreacted about Michael, who was it? The receiver.
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, excuse me. We're going to pour some out, brought to you by Som Sleep. For all the fans, all the people that went crazy on Twitter because Mike Evans was signing something for a referee. Jack, what actually was it for?
So according to, I want to get his name right. I know I'm going to mispronounce this. It is Tom Pelissero, I think is how you pronounce it. Pelissero.
Yeah.
Mike Evans and side judge Jeff Lamberth both went to Texas A&M. And Lamberth was getting Evans' phone number to pass along to a golf pro to give Evans lessons per sources. Lamberth didn't have papers, so he borrowed it from another official. So that is the story.
Unbelievable. So Mike's just trying to get his golf game right. And they think he's over there signing stuff. They're putting rules out there. No referees can get signatures from players, all this stuff. Fantastic. I love it. I love it when it kind of blows up in people's faces here a little bit. The refs get a lot of grief, and I get it. I do think that's one takeaway from being in the NFL is I think the game moves so fast. It's hard to referee this game, and the ref at times is not that great, right? It's no shocker, but I'm not going to sit here and say I blame them. This game is so fast. Guys are bigger, stronger than ever. There's so many rules now. Think about all the rules. What's a catch? What's not a catch? I do feel bad for them. I really do. They're not full-time either, which is really tough as well. It's hard to do that. You're an accountant or you're a school teacher or whatever, and then you got to just pick up on the weekend, fly to Arizona and ref the Arizona versus Panthers game. That's a tough gig. It's a great gig. I'm sure they love it. But yeah, they're people too, and they just want to work on the golf game in the offseason with Mike. I've had the pleasure to be around some awesome refs. They come and usually work our training camp. A group of them will come, and that's like their training camp too. They'll work a couple of our practices, and then they'll work our preseason game. They'll sit in on our meetings, help us with any questions we have, hand placement. They'll talk about things. Plus, they want to know what we're trying to get done too from the position, like how we do it, how it's coached. And then they'll chime up in the back and be like, Coach, I really wouldn't coach it that way. We're going to call flag if a guy does it. And it's really cool back and forth. So I enjoy that side of the game, the real professional side of it. And I've gotten to know some guys in the league, not on a first name basis, but we see each other and say hello because they spent a couple of days with us the last couple of years in training camp, different repping groups. So yeah, it's good for Mike. Maybe he can work on his golf game a little bit. Jack, are you a golfer, Jack? You got Commonwealth right near you. I don't see you as a golfer, Jack.
I tried. A lot of my close friends are really big into golfing. Like I pretty much my entire friend group will spend their weekends going somewhere whenever they're back from school. But I've tried. It's something I need to work on more this upcoming summer. I'm sure it's just a need as you get older, you have to golf. It seems like so. It's something I'm gonna have to work on, but not really. I haven't golfed much now.
Patience, Jack. I'm a horrible golfer. I can hit a ball and look like a PGA Tour player the next one, and the next 4 shots I'm in the water, in the sand, and 4 putting. So. That's how it goes, but it's kind of tough doing a little bit of football and media company and all the other crazy crap I got going on too. So I'll stick for the media company right now in the football. That's enough to manage. So that's good stuff, Jack. No, I appreciate it. So I think for me, we got to go right to the bar of the week, Jack. SeatGeek, brought to you by SeatGeek, promo code Colin Thompson. All right, guys, it's the World Series. These tickets are expensive now. Pop in our promo code, $20 off any ticket over $50. Check them out. Promo code Colin Thompson. SeatGeek, the only app we use when we're buying tickets and going to games. I think if I want to try to sneak up for the game next Monday, Jack, we're off on Tuesdays. Would be great to go up there and just watch the Phillies game and come back Tuesday morning. We'll see. Play it by ear maybe. But the bar of the week brought to you by SeatGeek. I'm going to punch that promo code in, Jack, Colin Thompson. I'm going to punch that Colin Thompson in. COLINTHOMPSON and get $20 off because I have to, right? Going to the game. You absolutely have to. But the bar of the week this week is a place I kind of discovered. It's right next to our facility, Jack. Right next to our facility in Uptown Charlotte. That is Clutch Kitchen and Poorhouse. We call it Clutch. The place was really cool. Everyone's always talked about it before. I know a lot of people go there, and they've always talked about it. It's a great spot. People consistently go. But it's right in Uptown Charlotte. It's right between our practice bubble and our stadium. So if you're a sports fan and you want to sit outside and watch the players come out of practice and have a couple of drinks, you can do that. You can just kind of see the sights and take in the great weather that Charlotte has to offer this time of year, all year round, really. Absolutely love what they got going on inside. Just great. They got all the sports memorabilia up on the walls, pictures up on the walls, awesome TVs, great service. I'm going to get into that in a second, but a really great place that's in a great location. Like I said, located right between the stadium and our practice facility. So you can't beat it if you're a sports fan when you find a place to hang out outside, inside. Really cool spot. So food and ambiance for me. I didn't try the food. I heard it's good. The ambiance is great. So I'm going to go 4 out of 5. They have great outside seating. It's in a great little area there, Charlotte. So 4 out of 5 on the food and ambiance. The TVs are great. Big TVs all over. I watched one of the Phillies games there a couple weeks ago. I think it was against St. Louis in the wild card matchup. Great TVs. We're going to go 5 out of 5 on the TVs. They don't get much better than that. We're going to go 4 out of 5 on the cold beer, 4 out of 5 on the service, 17 out of 20 for Clutch Kitchen and Poorhouse in Uptown, Charlotte. The bar of the week brought to you by GEEK, promo code Colin Thompson. So that's another one, Jack. That's another episode down for us. Appreciate our friends over at Actions Over Words, Alec and the team in Cape May, New Jersey. Jack's rocking the shirt today. Show us the shirt, Jack.
It's a crew neck sweater. Actions Over Words. I don't know if I can really.
Yeah, you can hold
up a little bit.
Stand up a little bit. Yeah,
beautiful crew neck. It's very comfortable. Highly would recommend it. 10 out of 10.
Okay, 10 out of 10. Jack rates it. 10 out of 10. Jack, we do bar of the week 20, Jack, not 10. So, yes, Actions Over Words, apparel.com. Check them out. Check. So you have you're clearing out the section behind you. You have one picture on the wall and it's behind your head. What is it?
It's just it's literally an autograph from Merrill Reese. I forget the exact, I believe it was his wife was a middle school teacher at my middle school. She was a sewing, Mrs. Reese. I think she was my sewing teacher. I honestly forget. I know she was there, but that's a little interesting fun fact. His wife is a teacher, home ec teacher, Keith Alley, or at least she was when I was there. But yeah,
people don't like Merle's style or his voice. I think it's fantastic.
Who hates Merrill Reese's voice?
I don't know about the voice, but some people are like, I've heard some people say it before. I'm not saying names, but I've heard several people say it doesn't really do it for me. I think he's great. I love the local broadcaster with the distinct voice. Could he do national? Maybe, but I think it's almost better when he's local. He's like, it's just legendary. Like you hear his voice. Like I still think of like, we can't get to the game. My dad puts the game on in the car because I had like a basketball game wherever, and we're like racing home to watch the game, but we got the dial turned up and we're listening to Merle Reese, or, people would mute the game and listen to Merle over the announcer sometimes. So pretty cool stuff. I'm a big Merle fan. He's a really nice guy. I got to meet him a couple of times. He signed his book for me. So really nice guy. And yeah, he's great. It'd be great to have him on the show. Maybe we'll get him on the show this off season. So
great one.
Yeah. That's it for another episode of the Colin Thompson Show. Ken Cage. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this. Talked about our matchups brought to you by Wealth Advisory Services, the World Series, the Rams and the Niners, Bus One, FudgeKitchens.com. Check them out. Shipping fudge and sweet treats across the country. Cmac, of course, for life. Fit Flyers will definitely be Bus One for life for me, I hope. Please keep turning it around. PJ Walker. People say it's a coming out party. He's been doing this forever. Under the Bus, brought to you by our friends at Amiche, the best Italian food in Charlotte. Pour some out. Som Sleep. Promo code Colin. Check them out. That's the rep people that were hating on those refs when the guy was just trying to work on his golf swing. That's all he was. Trying to get a little golf lessons with Mikey. And the bar of the week, Clutch Kitchen and Poorhouse, brought to you by SeatGeek. 17 out of 20, solid score. And then our friends over at Actions Over Words. That's Jack in the back. Anything from you, Jack, before we roll?
Nothing. I think we pretty much covered everything. A very eventful week. It will be exciting to watch the Phillies towards the end of this week. I'm sure our next recording will be right in the midst of that series, so it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out at that point in time. But no, it's pretty much it for me today.
It's going to be fun. It really is going to be fun to watch the Phillies in the World Series. It's great for the area. I always say it. My mom's got retail stores in the area. So I'm like, hey, our business is always better when the Phillies are in the playoffs, the Eagles are winning, teams are winning. Like the area just has a different little buzz to it, I think. So we have Leslie Goodell, a stashed interview that we did. I think I may release Leslie maybe at the beginning of the series on Friday morning, Jack. So people have something to listen to on the way to work. It's a quick listen, maybe 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes with Leslie, not that long. And we'll just go right into it. No crazy interview. Brian O'Grady joined us. Leslie and I become friends. We've worked together in the past. And she joins the show quite a bit, my show. And then for those dying for some more baseball talk, Breaking Bats, our podcast, with Brian O'Grady, with Justin Ayers, with Ryan Ripken, who's joining them once a week as well. Check them out. They do fantastic stuff during the playoffs. Big fan of what we got going on here, Not For Long Media. Two Girls, One Leagues, another podcast we have that's starting to really pick up, started to really get traction. I got a great picture where Fred Johnson. So the last two interviews, Fred Johnson and myself, we got pictures with this week. So that was cool. So I got to see Fred this weekend in Tampa. Here in Carolina. We play Tampa, of course. And then we have Amiche's podcast. Check them out. Harry Mays, Jason Martinez. And then what else we got, Jack? Last but not least, we have, why am I drawing a blank? Breaking Bats, Colin Thompson Show, Amiche's, Two Girls, One League. And we got more coming. There's two in the making. I can't talk about them right now, but there's two more in the making that are doing awesome things behind the scenes. So we'll have 6 by the new year, I'm convinced. So it's going to be fun. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Ken Cage was fantastic. I hope you guys join him. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting us, making this possible. And thank you for you guys for listening. Have a great day. All right. We got the great Ken Cage in the building. Appreciate you joining us, man.
Hey, thank you so much, Colin. I appreciate it.
Is it Ken Cage, the Repo Man? Is that how I need to say it?
You could just call me Ken, but whatever you want to call me is cool. I'll take it.
So, okay, I don't even know where to start. My roommate and I in college fell in love with the show called Airplane Repo. You are one of the stars on the show. It is a fantastic show. I haven't watched it in a while, I'll be honest with you. Not that I haven't. I've always been a fan of the show, but my schedule allows me like a Netflix show that I have to like pause and watch 20-minute snippets of, or HBO show or whatever, or like my work or my podcast world. So that's the sacrifices we make. A little less airplane repo, a little more podcasting.
Understood. I'm with you on that.
So how did this all start, man? Like, this is what you do for a living. How did this start? Take me back to ground zero. Well,
I don't know if you know this or not, Colin, but we're probably from close to the same neighborhood. I'm a Delco kid.
I assume that. Now, I went through social media. I saw this. I'm a Bucks County kid. I went to Archbishop Wood. Where'd you go to school?
I went to Sun Valley.
Okay.
And then my kids both went to, or all 4 of my kids, but they're the 2 football players. I always call them. My kids went to Pencrest, where Jonah Jackson from the Lions is from.
And we have one of your signers playing for the great Steve Devlin.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. Yes. Coach Devlin did a great job recruiting. He's such an honest guy and excited. And our signers had a huge win over Muhlenberg this week. So, we're 2-1. And I say we like I play. So
you should say we, Dad. You're a part of it. Listen. My dad says we too with the Carolina Panthers. So it's all part of it, man. You guys, we're nowhere without our dad, especially in athletics and life and balance and all that. So no, you could say we. You deserve to say we, but I may interrupt you. So
no, that's fine.
We have a Philly legend and Repo Man.
Yeah, I'll take the Repo Man. It's funny because I am so proud, and you know how we are in Philly. So proud to be from Philly, and I love the city. I love the area. I love the rivalries that we have, and
it's great.
I do say most of the time that's, I do have a Delco edge. I try not to, but I do. You can't shake it. I'm sure Bucks County, even though you have a lot more money than us.
I knew that was coming.
It has to.
I'll say this. Yeah, it's definitely unique, right? And I don't think when you all live in our areas, and I moved to Annapolis, Maryland now, and I've lived in Cape May, New Jersey the last couple of years, and
nice.
And obviously born and raised in Bucks County, and I still have family there, and my parents are there, but I love it. But it travels that bring me to know these great places. But when you meet people from Philly, it's like a really unique thing. Everybody always says that from their hometown. Like my wife's from Houston, and we bump into people from Houston, or we bump into people from Florida, but like there's always deep rooted just stuff around Philly, right? It's like Wawa, or if you're a person of faith, like the Philadelphia Catholic League, like I played football in, like is deep rooted and huge. Now we have a ton of players in the NFL. Like there's always like Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, like, but it's all the other things, the Jersey Shore, there's something about the area that everybody has everyone's in common with somebody about a dozen things. Right. And it doesn't have to be sports, could be social life, could be, I used to go to this drive-in movie theater. I used to go to, this Jersey Shore point. We used to eat at this cheesesteak place. Like it's unique. Really.
It's funny because I get personally offended on purpose, but personally offended when people try and sell me a Philly cheesesteak. If you have to call it a Philly cheesesteak, it's not.
No, it's not.
And we're down in Florida now because I'm working on a repo. I got put on hold today because the debtor found out and he's trying to pay the bill and I'm pissed off. But I took my son out last night to a place down here in Western Florida. And I'm like, how's this Philly cheesesteak? You say she goes, it's fantastic. I'm like, I get it. I'm like, this is awful. Like, don't call it a cheesesteak. Call it your thing. It's fine for your thing. But yeah, you can't put peppers on it, first of all. Like, stop with that. It's the steak, it's the cheese, it's the roll, it's the fried onions. Let's go.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's just funny. I get offended. I'm like, this is not a Philly. If you have to call it a Philly cheesesteak, it's not. Stop.
Well, people call it a Philly. That's a tough one. And I'll say this too, and you know this, like the places in the city are overblown. There's a couple places here and there that are very good and they're awesome. But where you're from, where I'm from, like the pizzeria mom and pop place makes the best cheesesteak, the best Italian hoagie, the best pizza, right or wrong?
Totally right. 100% right. There's a place in Delco that won the local cheesesteak competition called Phil and Jim's. And I'm mentioning them on purpose because my father-in-law's best friend owned it for 40 years, right? So Gus, he passed away recently, greatest guy ever, but he owned that and he made Phil and Jim's a legend. Those things city can't touch Phil and Jim's. And I'm sure you can name 3 or 4 in Bucksco. They're like, city can't touch these places.
No, you can't. Like, it's like literally in my childhood was, or in high school, I remember like we would play. Archbishop Wood, we were a really good team under Steve Devlin, win some games. We'd go out maybe a little later than we should have, sleep in, get up. Mom and dad, or dad would come back and have like we'd have pizza ordered, hoagies ordered, like just the whole tray of stuff. And again, it's like the camaraderie of it. Yes, football is everything where we're from. Yep. And I didn't grow up an Eagles fan. I grew up a Philly sports supporter and a diehard Flyers fan. My dad's dad was a Jets fan and a Purple People Eaters fan of the Vikings. My dad's best friend from college was a Jets fan. My mom's the guy who sat behind my mom in homeroom at Penn Ridge High School used to shoot spitballs in her hair. His name was Tim Lewis. He was a first-round pick of the Packers. Then he was a defensive coordinator of the Steelers, defensive coordinator of the Giants. So like I was all over the place. Like thankfully, because now I'm in this league, I see the Eagle Green and I still get excited and I support the team, but I'm not like a diehard and I get to treat every team equally as employers, which is really cool. But no, it's a unique area. Like I spent a lot of time in Key West, Florida, and we're in the Half Shell Raw Bar hat right now. And like people everywhere you go, man, everyone wants to represent and wear their, local Jersey Shore shirt or their, whatever it is, man. It's a unique group we are. I'll say that.
It is. And believe it, my office was based in Orlando for the first 12 years at the Orlando Executive Airport. Believe me when I tell you, the first weekend I found the Eagles bar.
Absolutely. There's an Eagles bar.
And I'm not an Eagles fan. I like the Rams. First game I ever saw was the Rams. It was James Harris. And I became a Jack Youngblood. I love that guy. Yep. And now he loves the show. So he and I talk. And if you look, I congratulated the team, not this past weekend, the weekend before, Ursinus. Jack Youngblood compliments my son. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, great. My son doesn't get into any of that stuff, but he saw Jack Youngblood and Jimmy's wearing number 85, which is Jack's number. So Jimmy's like, all right, that's cool. All right, good. We got one out of you. And my son's a huge Panthers fan. So we like football from all walks of life.
We'll be turning around for him. I promise. We'll be all right.
I know. You got Matt Rule. It's just a matter of time.
He's the best, man. He's the best. He does an awesome job.
He does.
And he's the guy for the job. I've said it many times. I always say it. He will live out his entire time here in his full contract in Carolina.
I hope so.
Yeah, he will. I think he will. We're 0-2 now. This will come out in a week or so. We're trying to figure out when this will come out, maybe a couple weeks. But things will be good. I digress. So I asked you the first question, and then we went off on our Philly stuff, which is freaking fantastic. And that's how
always happens with Philly people.
It always we cut each other off. We talk about random stuff. We rip on where we're from. We're from the same thing, just the same distance from Philly. It's just a different demographic. So, okay, how the heck did you get into this business?
So, strangely enough, I was working for Chrysler Financial in Horsham. which is right next to the air base, which was cool as can be.
That's a shame, by the way, that went up. That's
Totally a shame. It's awful. That was the greatest thing in the world. And I was lucky enough, one year they had the Thunderbirds for the show, and they were literally flying overhead. They couldn't have been more than 15 feet above the cars, setting off every car alarm in the parking lot. Yeah. It was amazing.
That would have been huge for Bucks County, Montgomery County, like the city, to have an airport there. And just, it's a shame. I know we're going off again, but that air, like, and then you drive by it now and you're like, man, that's such a shame.
It's terrible. Well, general aviation, and this is tying back into the show a little bit. General aviation needs more support from people and government and things like that, because it's such a huge industry if we let it be. But like you're saying, you had a perfectly good airport, and we just let weeds grow and let it die. It's like
beautiful area, lots to do. It's a huge feeder for where a lot of people live.
It was amazing. So, but I worked for Chrysler, and it was an office of 600 people, and I was coming up on my 40th birthday. Some say it was a midlife crisis. I say I was just ready to do it. Right. So I started looking for businesses with my current business partner. I mean, he's been my business partner since we bought the business in 2005. We knew each other since we were 12 years old, playing sports against each other, then with each other. We kind of happened to be in the same place. Like, I don't want to be part of the rat race anymore. I don't want to compete with 600 people for one job opening or one promotion. So we started looking at businesses. We literally looked at over 100 businesses until we found this repo business. So we convinced ourselves that we knew what was going on. We could do this job. We had no idea what we were talking about. I had done security at Graduate Hospital in Philadelphia. I was the head of security, and I had a good career there. Then I did the collection side. So I'm like, I had the banking and the security. Bob's the salesman. Bob Weeks is my partner. He's a salesman. Like, we got it all covered. We had no idea what we were doing, but it just kept making sense. So we bought the business, and then you know how that is. Once you buy the business, I had 4 kids. My youngest at the time was almost 2 years old. So my ass was on the fire. The second I wrote that check and signed the contract, I knew I just had to go. As fate would have it, we come back from the attorney's office, signing the paperwork. My first order is already on the fax. So I'm like, all right, that's a good sign. So, fast forward 17 years, COVID's kicked our ass a little bit. Is it all right to say that, by the way?
You can let it rip on the show. Absolutely.
Okay. COVID's kicked our ass a little bit. Because the banks just haven't been doing the work. They haven't been repossessing. They've been extending the loans. But we've done a lot of good things during the recession of Bush, Obama. We were front page of the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, CNN, Fox and Friends, you name it. We were on all of it. Then the show came, which was cool. But once we hit the show, we also got 2 DOJ, Department of Justice contracts to seize, maintain, and sell boats and airplanes. 2 separate contracts. No company in the history of the country has ever had those 2 contracts. We had them simultaneously. So, it's a little bit of bragging. So I apologize for that, but it's also something like, that's just a fact. Like, we did something nobody's done before. That's pretty freaking cool. And they extended both contracts beyond the date, because we're like, that's good. We're done. Like, well, can you stay on another year? Okay, how about one more? And it ended up being 7 years instead of 5. So, it's been a nice run. We're still doing it. We're hoping to really get cracking, unfortunately, but over the next year or so, we think things are going to really spike.
Yeah, I know. I'm ready to buy a boat. So the boat, my friend I'm gonna go through to buy the boat, who's a boat dealer. He's like, just wait a little bit. Wait a little bit. And,
you know what you do? Check out yachtworld.com.
Okay.
It's the #1 selling site for boats. Look at the number of boats for sale. Okay. And then watch it over the next month or 2, and you'll start to see that number of boats for sale slowly creep up. That's when the prices come down. You'll see that number really go up probably in the first quarter next year. And you're probably buying off of the lakes, right? One of the lakes.
Yeah, I'll probably buy something in actually off the Jersey Shore, Annapolis area. Yeah,
I'm thinking Lake Wiley or Lake Norman.
I'm on Lake Norman up here actually right now.
See,
but you're on. I'm looking at it. Have you repoed anything out of here?
Yeah,
I believe it.
Yeah, a bunch. One of my favorite stories is from there. It's a long story, but basically one of the first cases we had, we were hired by a bank to do an investigation on this guy, right? He was telling the world he was this multi-hundred-million billionaire kind of guy, right? And he had racehorses, he had boats, he had all kinds of assets. We do an investigation, right? And we start finding a whole lot of issues with it. So then we say, can you send us the contract, basically where he applied for this loan, right? So he puts his net worth at just say $1 billion. So we look at it, and his assets, he's listed an accounts receivable that he has for like 1.1 billion. That's most of his assets. Well, who owes him 1.1 billion? You know who owed it to him? He did, himself. He also has it on the payable side. It's like, did you guys not see that most of his net worth is a loan that he owes himself? So right then they shut everything down with him and pulled it down. Fast forward about 3 years. There's a builder out of New Jersey, and he's got a new house basically on Lake Norman. Right. So, but we're looking for a $200,000 boat. One of the cool things about the first guy was he had a Russian mail order bride. Okay. And we're like, so he's got a payable to himself. He's, his whole life is a scam, and he's got a Russian mail order bride. Right. Okay. Fast forward, this guy can't find his boat, but we know it's somewhere around the lakes. So I'm like, I'm tired of waiting. I just go knock on the door. I'm going to call him out now. Knock on the door. Door opens. It's the Russian mail order bride from the guy 3 years before. It was the first time that I was stunned and couldn't speak. Like, I gave myself up. Luckily, Danny was there, and Danny kind of just rolled with it. But I'm like literally couldn't talk.
We didn't go through this game plan.
Woman, right? It was the same freaking woman. How does that happen? Luckily, Danny, excuse me, man, we're here, and he just rolls right in because Danny's from Charlotte. So he just rolled right into it, saved my butt big time. But that was the one time, because I met her with this guy from years ago. I'm like, this woman does not know how to pick a man. Every guy she picks. Process?
Yeah.
Well, eventually it's just like, listen, I need the boat. Where's the boat kind of thing. And then we ended up getting it. He had it behind a property on a trailer or something. So we ended up getting on the land, which is why we couldn't find it on the lake. But it was a fun one, because to shut me up is not an easy thing. And she did it.
There's so many ways to go with this. There's so many questions I have, right? Like the TV show, it's real.
Yep.
And you're doing a lot of crazy things. Like, did any camera people get involved, like injured? Like, are any like crazy stories when it comes to that? Like, things didn't make the air because things went wrong?
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff, and we tell you this before and after if you watch the show, a lot of the stuff we do have to redo for that reason. The other thing is when you're doing collections or repos or any of that stuff, you have to protect the identity of the debtor. Yeah. Okay, they have right to confidentiality, a legal right. And this is the thing people ask, well, why do you have to recreate it? Well, if I show the guy or show his boat and it's a unique boat or a unique airplane, he sues me. He sues the network, he sues the production company, he sues the bank. Who does that help? Like, seriously, just to show who a guy is, I don't need to do that.
Yeah, the show's already good enough.
Right. So like the stories are true from A to Z, but there are quite a few parts in there where we have to reproduce it. Because, if you buy this boat, next year I go repo and I'm like, hey, Colin, you mind if I film you getting totally embarrassed while I steal your boat? You cool with that? Just sign this paper. You're not going to do it. And why would you? So, we have had guys near misses for sure. And a lot of times the camera guys, they don't know airplanes, they don't know boats, they don't know helicopters. So it's like, dude, you can't walk there. What'd I do? You almost got your head chopped off. That kind of stuff. So we have had some situations. We're really careful with them. We had one situation. This was one of the first repos I did with Danny, and it was a legit one. Every part of this was shown legit. So we can't find the airplane. All right. It's a float plane. He's on Lake Okeechobee in Florida. So we're knocking on the door, nothing. Like I get bored easily. I'm tired of looking. So it's like, now I confront them. I can't do that. So then we're like, all right, let's talk to the neighbors. So we go to the neighbor's house, looked like a nice house. Everything looked good. We step up on the porch, and he always wants the lead to make sure he looks first, right? We all get up on the porch, and he takes a step and he says, stop. What's going on, Danny? Stop. Quiet. go back, go back. And he's just doing this, but he's whispering it to us, but he's like, go back. So me too, yes, go back. Okay, so it's me and the camera crew, we walk away. He found a soft part in the deck. So he said that, because he's a bounty hunter, right? So he's done all this stuff with criminals. He said, this is a heroin house. And he said, under here is where they have some of their product or some of their, I forget exactly if it was people, product, or whatever. But he said, that soft spot could be a booby trap, but it's usually where they keep stuff. He said, I could also see in the window, and it was basically abandoned except for squatter stuff. So he said, this is a crack house. He said, if you'd have taken another step, there's a possibility. So that's why he freaked out. So that's a situation where Danny literally saved our butts, as he's known to do. But that experience as a bounty hunter, he's like, immediately stop, go. And that was a situation where it could have been really bad.
That's crazy. I hate to ask, like, what's the craziest event you've come across? But I almost have to ask it, right? We're sitting in a bar here. I wish we were in Florida, in Western Florida.
Oh my gosh,
that'd be nice. Maybe Frenchies, and we could be talking to these stories, but we're not right now. Maybe
we're going there tonight.
There you go.
Now that they canceled us, we're going tonight. So yes, we're at a bar. We're hanging out. We're chatting. I'll answer any question.
What's a crazy story?
So there's a lot of, the craziest one that I always think of. The problem with me is I've got over 3,000 repos.
3,000.
I forget, honestly, I forget most of them until a marine is brought up or a location. I'm like, oh, I did this, that, and the other thing there. The one I remember all the time is, it was early on again. We went to repo a boat, right? And the guy that owned the boat was like 84 years old. Like, this doesn't make any sense. It's a straw purchase, right? The guy is basically borrowing the money for somebody else. Okay. So we found this Cuban guy who was in Jacksonville, owned a car auto body shop or whatever. We knew he was an associate. So we went and talked to him the other day. He was a jackass. I mean, he was just he just stunk of crime. I'm like, this guy's no good, right? But he wouldn't answer questions and he kicked us out. Fine. We keep going. Bob's helping me. I'm in the car in Jacksonville. He's doing the research at home in Philly on the computer. He said, you got to check this address. What was that guy's address? We go to the house. We see 2 boats in the back. One of them is his. Perfect. We got it. Let's go. So I call, usually we tow the boats out. A, it's a lot quieter. And B, we've had situations where like the props and the drives have been chained to docks. So if you crank the motor, it'll rip the outdrive out, rip the prop off, ruin their dock, my fees, right? So now we tow first, just to be safe. And then once we're out there, we start working on it and crank it up. Call the towboat company, like, Ken, there's no water. You can't get towed out. What do you mean? He goes, the tide's only 3 feet or whatever. You got to wait till 7 a.m. Okay, fine. 7 a.m. comes, we hop on the towboat at the top of the river, come down with him, jump on the boat. All right, hook up, we pull out. Looks good. We're clear, right? We make the turn into the St. Johns River and we start going fast. We're like, oh, we got this. Good job. This is great. A $200,000 boat, right? About a mile down the river, all of a sudden we look back and we're like, that guy's flying. There's a boat, we didn't know it was chasing us yet, but nose up, just flooring it. Wow, that guy's in a rush doing something. Then we look back and we're like, holy, that's the other boat that was behind the house. It's the Cuban guy. He's chasing us now, right? And he is nose up, right? So he probably gets to within a half mile or so. We hear a couple pops. Now, do I know for sure it was a gun? I don't know, but I know what gunfire sounds like, and it sounded exactly like that. So now we're freaked out, right? So we called a mayday, and the Coast Guard was there so fast. You wouldn't believe it, with their giant guns on the front. So they come flying past. What's going on? We point at the boat. They start going towards the boat. Nose goes right down, peels off, and starts retreating, right? So now we're clear. And the Coast Guard, they wouldn't tell us exactly what happened, but it wasn't good. That's all they would say. So yeah, this guy was chasing us on the St. Johns River, nose up, shooting at us as we're going.
Wow.
We've had a few situations like that. We had one in the Keys, but not Key West. boat's behind the house. We go there at 7:30 in the morning to go get it. Luckily, the sun was exactly right, because just as we're getting close to the boat, we see like a reflection of some sort. We see a reflection of some sort. I'm like, the hell was that? She tied the owner, fishing wire across the walkway with with the fishing hooks up face high to try and rip our faces. I mean, can you imagine if you walked into a fishing hook with your eye? That's what she intended to do. Thank God the sun was just right that we got that little shimmer, and it looked like a spider web, really. So we pulled back and we stopped. Like, she was trying to get us. So we get, we get booby trap situations frequently. We had one airplane also in Florida where they cut the brake lines because they knew we were coming. So yeah, can you imagine that? Now you can't get too far because you need the brakes right away, but it's like the intention was not good.
No. I feel like the airplane ones, man, that's where it could get dicey. Weather. I saw your post about that. Like there's a lot of variables around that.
There is. And it's funny because people say, what do you like better, boats or airplanes? I mean, it varies depending on the season, honestly. But the thing about airplanes is if a boat breaks down, you float. Not a big deal, right? If an airplane breaks down, guess what happens? Like Ron White used to say, the comedian, you always have just enough fuel to get to the crash site. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, if that thing breaks down, we only know so much about the aircraft. A lot of times they'll track flights not knowing we're coming. So we'll say, okay, they flew, I don't know, 8 times in the last month. Okay. The maintenance is probably up to speed. We'll check if we can. Our first move is to get the pilot to taxi it to the other side of the field and then take a good look at it. That's the goal. Sometimes, depending, I was chased in Jersey. You're going to be shocked by this. We were taking 3 flight school airplanes from an airport in Jersey, and Channel 3 from Philly was with me. And they stayed outside of the fence, thank God. But the 3 planes start taxiing up, right? First one goes off, good. Second one goes off, good. Third one's, cranking up, testing this and that. All of a sudden, you see an older Italian guy get into a brand new white caddy in Jersey. You can put them together, right? He goes speeding up the taxiway, cuts across, and he wants to cut him off as he's taking off. He cleared him. To me, it looked like about this much he cleared him. Probably cleared him by 20 feet. But the guy was literally willing to die to stop the airplane to go.
Wow.
Like, it's just like stuff like that. It's like, oh my gosh. Like, yeah, we've had a lot of stuff that was wild. That was wild and fun and crazy.
I feel like that feeling, right, when you get up in the air, you're just like, we're rolling, right? Like the weather's beautiful. Like there's got to be those good days, right?
Oh my gosh, the best.
That's the best.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some flights that were beautiful, some that were bumpy, but I mean, there was one trip we took where we started in Lubbock, and I showed the airplane for that, I think, last week. Flew from Lubbock to Fort Worth, repoed another plane there. Then from Fort Worth to, I think, Montgomery, Alabama, then Auburn, the airport there at the university. And then we went one other place, and then up to finished at Wilmington Airport in Wilmington, Delaware. Took the pilot from Wisconsin and Florida, took them for cheesesteaks. Like, we're good. That was awesome because the whole trip was flying. You couldn't have done that without an airplane. And we were able to get every airplane secured and move on to the next one. And I mean, we had perfect weather. So it's just like, especially me, I'm not flying. So when those guys have it, they're tremendous pilots.
Yeah. How do you get them? How do you find a repo pilot?
So the first repo where I had a pilot I was just telling the story today. It was in Stuart, Florida. And the pilot just happened to be in my office. My office manager, Glenda, I'll put her up against anybody. She is the best. She's awesome. But she was talking to a friend of hers who was from the UK, and then this student pilot from Embry-Riddle in Daytona Beach, Trevor Otto. So, it's a 20-minute flight or whatever from Embry-Riddle to our office in Orlando. And I'm like, yeah, I need a pilot to get to Stewart. And those guys are both like, we'll fly you down. well, hot dog, I'll go down tonight then. So they fly me down. It's dark by this point because it's January. And I go up to the airplane. It's a piece of crap. It's not going to fly anywhere, right? So I'm going to have to deal with the airport, which is no problem. So I go and I'm taking pictures, walk around. I see the security guy walk past. Hey, how are you? Shakes his head. I'm like, okay, good. Doesn't say anything, so I think we're cool, right? So the pilots are looking at it and doing their part of it, and we hear all these fire whistles, or all these sirens. Wow, something big's going on in Stewart. I wonder what's going on. And they keep getting closer and closer. It's like, what in the world's going on? Like, I don't see any fires. What is all this stuff? Right? All of a sudden, they come busting through the gate. There was 13 cop cars, 20 cops. They all come out, guns drawn, at me. What are you doing here? I'm like, I repoed this airplane. Show me your paperwork. And I showed them the paperwork. And I'm like, I actually just called the police. I have a case number here. Like, call your people. Still guns drawn, right? So they're still pointing at me. While the one guy makes the call. I'm like, yeah, he's right. He did call it in. The paperwork's good. Who are you here with? I'm like, I'm here by myself. Those two guys hid. They ran and hid. I'm like, you son of a gun. Totally burned me. But at the end of the day, they calmed down. I'm like, talking to one, I'm like, why did they send so many police officers for this? They're like, they sent 8 more. They got stuck behind the train in town. I'm like, you sent 28 cops for me? And they're like, after 9/11, anything on an airport is all hands on deck. But yeah, I had 20 cops. So back to your question, Trevor was the first one. Trevor Otto he's an amazing pilot. I think he's with Southwest now. He was a student at Embry-Riddle, right? And I realized, passionate about airplanes. He'll fly anything he's allowed to legally and anything that is good to fly. Then he introduced me to some of his other friends who are also students. Now, the big thing with them is they're all trying to build up their flight times to get these big jobs with JetBlue and Southwest and whatever, right? And I say this, I'm a little sappy with it, but it's true. Duke Simley is the other guy who flew a ton with me. And I like to mention their names so when they watch this, they know I'm thinking of them. I was in the car with Duke coming back from a repo of a Mooney in Tracy, California, going over the Bay Bridge from Oakland to San Fran, when he got the call that he got his first airlines job. And I'm like, that's my son. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, though.
Yeah, but it's like, I know the flight times helped them, and they're great guys. They deserve every bit of help they get, but most of it was just really hard work on their parts. But I felt like a dad. I'm like, you just got an airline job, and I'm in the car with you? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, it's the greatest day, man. Greatest work day ever. So
that is the best.
Those student pilots, they work their tails off. They're good. And then the other one that did a lot was Tom Huntington. He was also a mechanic and a licensed mechanic. So I'm like, I'm taking Tom. If we have a problem, very permanent baby. So they were all 3 great.
My buddy has a plane now. Shout out to Cape May Brewing Company, Ryan Krill.
Nice.
And he's got a plane. He flies to work.
I know that name.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Awesome guy. And he's got a Series 7 plane that's with the parachute in them now.
Yep.
Those are sweet. We got in it, and I was like, I'm no problem flying. I've had my fair share. My uncle flew F-18s in the Navy, and he flies for JetBlue now.
Awesome.
And so he flying's no big deal. I've had some tough flights over the years. We all been on them, but I've had some tough flights over the years. And I get on Ryan's plane. We're going to Wilmington, Delaware, to meet with the guy from Qualified Captain. I don't know if you follow that Instagram page or know about that Instagram page. Check it out. You'll love it. It's about people in boats, like just acting dumb and docking poorly and their truck sliding into water and boat ramp.
Yeah. I love those.
So Qualified Captain, check it out. They collaborated on a beer called the Boat Ramp Champ, and it's a great Pilsner. And Ryan's like, you want to go with me? I'm like, sure. So we get on this plane. We pull up to the Cape May Wildwood Airport, which is a huge airport. And I look at his plane. I'm like, man, this is a little tin cup out here, And he's like, you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. He's like, listen, bro, pull it. My heart explodes. Pull this red lever back and pull this lever. A parachute shoots out of it. We land at 17 miles an hour. I'm like, a parachute? He's like, a parachute. The plane will land like this and fall underneath of itself and it will land. I'm like,
yep.
Okay. So I had to pick my hobby. as I get older that I want to do. I think I'm going to pick the boating route and save the flying for the friends, or pay, you know, for Southwest, like whatever. But
Yeah. I mean, I've never gotten a pilot's license, and honestly, that's the number one knock I get for the show is from the other people. Well, you can't be real if you don't have a pilot's license. I'm like, does the heart surgeon have a license to drive the ambulance? Is that really important?
No.
Because I do the heart surgery part. I don't do the ambulance part. And both parts are critical to saving a life, right? You can't have one or the other. It's got to be both. And it's the same way with us. I mean, I've taken lessons. I've flown airplanes before, but it's more expensive for me from the insurance side. My choice is make $200 for him to fly or pay $100,000 a year for me to fly. Well, which one are you going to do? Profit or loss? I'm doing profit.
Yeah.
So that's why we did it that way.
Yeah. I'm going to stick to the boating situation. I'm going to stick to the ground, anti-gravity, you know, kind of guy. So, okay. What's the weirdest thing you've repoed? I saw the gold sink the other day. That was wild.
Yeah, that was in a way too gaudy airplane. Racehorse. I repoed a racehorse. I repoed a submarine. That was pretty cool. There's a lot of weird airplanes. Like there's, if you look it up, a 337, which is a push-pull airplane. It's a twin, but there's one in the front and one in the back. So that's why they call it a push-pull, right? So they were strange and kind of weird. They're common, but to me, it was a little weird. But I mean, the submarine and the racehorse are the two where people go, whoa, that's cool.
Can you take us through the stories of those two separately?
The submarine was not much of a story.
Okay. I'm thinking that you rolled out like in the depths of.
That would be cool, wouldn't it? Me and Danny stuck together in a submarine. No, thank you.
I respect, like, so much respect, first off, for our military, right?
Yes.
But if you're going to say, I want to be one of those people, I'm going to volunteer my time, I'm going to do my duty to this country, and I'm going to be in a submarine. You deserve a special, whatever we can get them. That is tough.
For months at a time.
Underwater?
Yeah. And it all cramped.
That's
and
tough.
you can't, like in an airplane, you can circulate the air. What are you doing in a submarine? You're just recirculating your breath.
That's tough.
Right. Every part of it's tough.
Yeah.
Right. They're men and women.
Yes, they are.
For sure.
So boring in the submarine, but anything fun with the horse?
Yeah, the horse was fun because we had to. So ever since I went to college, I've had this thing where, you know, I couldn't play football because of my back. I have a back illness that wouldn't let me play. I played soccer and hockey and baseball, but I couldn't play football. Always loved the game though. So I went to IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And I was there when Coach Signetti, who passed away last week.
Coach Siggs, I played for his son.
Which one, Frank or
Frank? So Frank recruited me to Rutgers back in the day and played for him with the Giants.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think he was the Rams OC for a while, offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he's been all over.
Yeah. And I think I'm sorry, name escapes me. His brother, I think, is now at James Madison.
Yes, I saw that on the Pitt game. Their dad died, and
he just did last week.
Yeah.
And Coach Signetti was a great guy too, an amazing coach. And what he went through at West Virginia he was with Bobby Bowden for a while. Then he got sick when he took over the head spot. And anyway, I always love IUP games, and I always wanted to figure out a way to get on the field. Right. So I just would always play these little games and characters and, talking to people. I do accents and things just to see what I could get away with. It was just a goofy little thing. Well, now I got to do it for real. Right. Nobody's going to believe me with a Philly accent is looking for a horse in the middle of Kentucky. It's just not going to work. So, okay, I got to come up with something. You know what? I'll be a writer. I'll be a journalist for East Coast Horsing magazine. Or something. It wasn't East Coast Horsing, but East Coast Horses or something like that. Want to do an article. Now the trainers and those people they love to get in the press, right? So I call and say, hey, can I meet with you? I want to come. I want to interview you and hopefully get you in the June edition or whatever, right? Sure, come on up. Okay. So we set a date in a day or two. So the guy I was working with as my side at the time, the muscle guy, he had a ton of experience with horses, right? And he had a horse trailer in the truck and everything, right? So I say, I'd like to come out later and get some pictures, but for now, can we go up in your office so it's quiet? Well, the whole point of that is to get him away from the horses. So as soon as I take the guy upstairs, back in, he backs the trailer in, my partner in the case, puts the horse in there, off he goes. As soon as he's getting onto the road, he texts me, all clear, right? But I let it ding. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I have to cut this short. I just got a text from the office. I have to get back there. We have a problem. Now what kind of problem could you have with a magazine company, right? The printer's spewing green. I don't know what to do. But that was the only way I could get out of there. I got out of there as quick as I could. Yeah, never called him back. He may or may not have called me a few times and cursed me out. That can't be confirmed. But we got the horse that way. So I distracted him, took him upstairs, and in and out it went.
Wow.
So, that was a lot of fun. It was also probably the scariest when people ask me the scariest repo, because that thing can die. Like if it's too stressful, if it's too traumatic, if you don't feed it right, if you don't take care of it right. Luckily, we just basically took it to the auction and let them take care of it. So we already had that coordinated, but that freaked me out the most because I don't have experience with horses. Luckily, the guy at the time did, and he had everything. But I thought that was pretty cool to just back it up, take the horse out, right in the trailer, boom, off you go. And he was literally there for 15 minutes before he was gone. It was that quick.
That's incredible. So you go from a banker to this business where you're on street savviness, quick on your feet. How have you been able to, sustain this success for this long?
A lot of great people. And I know you're in sports, you know what that means. Baker Mayfield could have his career game this week. And guess what? It's not because of Baker alone. Yep. It's because of the offensive line. It's because of the receiver. It's everybody, right? One guy is not great without everybody. Danny's been such a valuable asset to us, and he's been so awesome. And for those that don't know, Danny Thompson is my partner on the show. Danny is a bodyguard. So when I'm a repo man, I can't touch anybody. By law, I can't breach the peace. Danny's a bodyguard. Danny can beat the crap out of anybody he wants to, legally. Yeah. So I can't touch you. Oh, but this guy can. Good luck. You probably should have gone after me. So, Danny's been great. The pilots are amazing. We have some great captains. Glenda, I told you already that she's literally the backbone of this company because she does everything from, the financial stuff for us. But more than that, like when I need a woman's touch on a repo case, and I explained one last week, it's the airplane's a Beagle, right? So I'm like, Glenda, call this airport and see if you can get any information. Now, one thing she always did is use the name of her arch rival in high school, which I thought was hilarious. She's going to get that bitch if she wants it or not. She's getting her, you know what I mean? So she's always Stacy. Hi, this is Stacy, and she plays a dumb female. I'm looking for a Snoopy plane. My boss says you have this Snoopy plane there. And I'm waving, no, it's not it's a Beagle. And she's waving me off. No. Glenda. Yeah, it's a Snoopy plane. He said it was there, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just doing the faces and everything. She's blowing me off. She goes, all of a sudden I hear her goes, that must be it. It's a Beagle. I knew it had something to do with Snoopy. I'm like, son of a gun, that dumb thing worked for her. And she found it. She went 9 cases in a row. We're on the first call. She got confirmation the aircraft or the boat was there. 9 straight. Now that might not sound like a lot, but to get 1 on the first calls it's ridiculous. It's awesome, right? Because you're kind of trying to figure out what's what. And here's all the information I have. It's this big pile. We're trying to put it together to find out where it might be. And 9 straight times, the first call, she gets it. That's insanity. So Glenda's, a huge part of everything you're doing. And obviously my business partner, Bob Week. So together, we are tenacious. We do have Delco in us, and people have learned what that means. Yep. And we don't take, to me, I played sports my whole life, so I am competitive. And you're competitive. If you were out there and you could put yourself against him, the debtor, every single time, now we got something, right? Now you're not going to lose. Now it's more than just the job. Now it's personal. Yeah. And that's what I've been able to do pretty well with these people each time. It's like, nah, you're not, you think you've got me. Not this time.
That's great.
It's fun.
That's incredible. As we wrap up, your son's a ball player, family of sports, right? From our area, you don't have choice. Some big events you've been to and an event maybe you're looking forward to getting to when it comes to the sporting world.
I'm looking forward to, I'll start with that. My son, Jimmy, starting in a playoff game for a sinus.
There we go.
How's that?
That's a good one.
You know, again, I when it comes to my kids, I get so emotional. So, my son, my older son, I call him a COVID kid because he graduated in 2020. He was named captain of the Pencrest baseball team on a Tuesday, and Thursday the season was canceled.
Oh,
So he's looking to try and get into college baseball. Now, he had a scholarship for Widener
man.
to play ball and go to Widener, and COVID just kind of kicked him in the nuts pretty good. But now he's at St. Petersburg College, and he's looking to play ball there. So, seeing him play in a game those two would be the highlights for me. I've been to the Indy 500, which was insane, crazy. I was at the 87 Game 6 Stanley Cup final game when J.J. Daigneault scored the goal. And if you're a Flyer nut, you'll know I still replay that every once in a while.
Love that.
That was, gosh, that building, yeah. And it literally, they say it shakes. It shakes.
It shakes.
Oh my gosh.
I walked in the rafters there. I was fortunate enough when I was in middle school, my buddy Murph, his dad ran Comcast Spectacor, the building, the operations of the building. He may still do it. And he ran Citizens Bank Park, the Spectrum, and at the time, Wachovia Center, now Wells Fargo. So he had those and didn't have the Eagles. So like as a kid, the coolest thing ever. I was a hockey player growing up.
Yeah.
And played for 10 years until about 8th or 9th grade, and in football, you're done. So what stinks, because I loved it. But long story short, we would like go play in the morning at the Spectrum at like 7 a.m. They would have like a game at 1. The Flyers would play at 7. So we'd be up at like 4 in the morning. We'd drive down, play hockey in the morning with, they called the 715ers. It was the employees of Citizens Bank Park, the Spectrum, and Wells Fargo. We'd play with the employees. There would be front office members from the Flyers playing, like former Flyers playing, and you would play pickup in the morning for an hour. Then we'd go to breakfast in South Philly, and then we watch the Phantoms play at 1, Flyers play at 7. One time we saw Flyers play at 1, Phillies playoff game, game 2 or 3 when they beat the Rays back in whatever when they were last World Series. 08. So that was some cool memories of the Spectrum. Absolutely. Even for me, we would walk the catwalk up top and it would be shaking crazy. I'm like, oh my God,
I'm going down.
This is right before it happened, right? They folded in a couple of years later. So yeah, a lot of good memories there.
That was a great building. And most of my memories, especially with the Phillies, are with my boys, because my oldest son David since he was 2, he just loved baseball. So we would we would get season tickets from 08 through 12.
Oh, those years were unreal. We were spoiled.
Right.
Spoiled.
And I always said, with the 08 game, right, game 5, rain out, we have to wait 3 days. And everybody's complaining, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing in the world for kids, because they couldn't have stayed up till 12:30 if it had continued.
Yep.
So they start the game in the 7th inning. And so my sons could be there and see it. And, I joke about this. My wife hates it, but it's like they won the World Series and David saw his first set of boobs in his life. Because we go into media where we're from and banging pots and pans, and some girl flashes and he looks at me. I'm like, yeah, that's what it is.
Welcome to media. Welcome to Delco.
Delco, baby, all the time. So, we saw Ryan Howard hit a 3rd deck home run, and Chase Utley had 2 inside the park homers. Like
those years were ridiculous. Ridiculous. They won every 9 out of 10 games. Like it was just so much fun. And the team was likable. Charlie Manuel, all the people around it. Yeah. What do you think of Mayor of Easttown? You watch it?
I did not, but I heard
Delco.
It was big time Delco, Aston, trying to get our accents down. I don't know what they're talking about. You guys think we have accents.
I met a guy at Mayor's Tavern in Cape May, great little spot. And he bent my ear about how upset he was about the show and how it's a bad portrayal of all of us. I'm like, he didn't stop talking for 2 hours. I'm like, that is literally the show.
You just did the show.
You just did it. Come on, man.
It's so funny because when I brought the crew down, we had the crew the 3rd season, because Asset Valley Baseball League's Major League Field is named after my father. So they wanted to do that. And we had a big day for the league down there. So the crew, like as we're leaving the week before, like anything we should prepare for coming to your town? I'm like, yeah, one of two things might happen. Okay, what are they? Well, one, you might be invited to somebody's house for dinner. Oh, that's cool. Two, you might get in a fight. And honestly, both will, if one happens, they'll probably both happen. Where are we going? Stelco, baby. You get in a fight, then you have them over for dinner, and you get in a fight again, but then you hug, and it's good. Welcome to Delco.
Welcome to Delco. That's great, man. Listen, man, you going to Frenchie's tonight?
We are.
Oh, look at that. What a good guess.
My daughter lives in Siesta Key. My son's here at the college, so we're going to head over to Clearwater. And I almost had to blow it off because they were asking me. I'm like, depends on how the repo goes today. And around 11 o'clock, bank calls and says, hold up. Debtor says he's going to pay.
So
Frenchie's
you
it
get a
is,
nice meal
kids.
with your kids. You get a nice meal with your kids, looking at the sunset over the Gulf, man.
It's the best.
That is the best. Ken Cage, Delco legend. Appreciate you coming on, man. We appreciate you.
Colin, thanks so much. Go Panthers.
Go Panthers.